Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to today's podcast of Her Version, a podcast dedicated to hearing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Today, we have an amazing guest speaker with us, Jodi Anderson. Jodi is the mother of 4 beautiful daughters and is here to share a story of light and hope. Looking at Jodi now, you would never know the challenges she endured in her younger years and well into her adult years. Foster care, abuse, infidelity, to name a few. These traumatic events led to feelings of unworthiness and hopelessness. She is here to tell her story in order to reach out to all the young women out there that are struggling with their self-worth in order to give them encouragement to find happiness in themselves internally first before looking to someone else. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Is it Jodi or Judy?
Jodi. Jodi.
Okay. While I was saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, it's right. You're right.
How was your day today?
I'm having a good morning so far. It's beautiful, like 70 some degrees today and the sun is shining. So absolutely beautiful.
Awesome. It looks like the sun is coming in all nice and warm on you.
Yes, feels good. We're Wisconsin, so we take as much sun as we can get.
Of course, of course. Well, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to relax with us and share your story. I'd like to just jump right in. Do you mind opening up a little bit about your younger years and what led you to eventually feel the need to marry so young?
So there's a lot, so bear with me. So I was born basically to a single mom, and she was an abusive parent. She had some mental illness herself. And so my childhood was pretty rough. I didn't have my dad, didn't know who my dad was. My family is very light skinned. They're white. And I am white also, but not just white, but I didn't know my ethnicity. And so I think there was a piece of me that felt like I didn't belong, also because I didn't look like everybody else. And I grew up in a pretty small town. And there was a lot of abuse, and my mom had nervous breakdowns frequently. And so I was put into foster care and then sent back home, and put into foster care and sent back home. And I think part of it too is like the culture of the small city that I lived in. That was what people did. Like, we graduated high school, we got married, and we had kids. And so it hadn't occurred to me yet that there was a different path than that to follow. And so that's how I started out. I found someone that I got along with well at the time. I think that was all the requirements I really needed, right? And so I got married and had I actually had my first daughter before I was married, and then we got married, and then had my next daughter, and then the marriage ended. But when I was young, there was a lot of physical abuse. There had been some sexual abuse. There's definitely was emotional abuse happening. So you can imagine like the self-esteem and where I was at, and definitely just looking for love, wanting to be loved.
Yeah. I think a lot of young people in general feel that, and need to feel needed.
I feel like I didn't, and it's not a blame game. Like, my mom probably didn't have the skills, but she definitely didn't pass them to me. So I wasn't told and taught the things that I needed to be able to make a good decision about a partner that was a good fit for me. So when I say, like, the important thing was we were attracted to each other, we got along, right? That seemed to be it. And so I didn't even know myself, probably, really, right? So it just failed, and I see that too in girls, and I talk to my 4 daughters too. It just like the importance of trying to figure out the right partner, and it can take a while, and all the things that you need to go through, because when you don't have the love, when you are lacking that, when you're lacking all of the things that comes from an abusive childhood, self-esteem and safeness, that's exactly what you crave. And it's dangerous because sometimes even the people that you end up with aren't intentionally hurting you, but there's a level of control they can have, right? Because you need them so much and you rely on them and they love that, but they also can then dictate most things that you do.
100%.
And it can just be, it's a rough road. And I think we shared with the audience that I work in high school. So I work with teens quite a bit. And that's like my biggest message is I want them to know who they are and be solid in who they are so that they can make good choices, because I don't want them to be my age and have to come back and fix it.
Exactly. I totally understand that. Was it the one marriage?
I was actually married twice. I was married for a year and a half the first time. And I had, I think my oldest daughter was 2 or 3, and then at a 9-month-old. And he was cheating. He was cheating before we were probably even married. And I don't know that I knew that or wasn't allowing myself to know that.
Yeah.
But it was very clear when my youngest child was 9 months old. My youngest child with him was 9 months old. And when I confronted him, of course, he wasn't honest. And I reached out to his family, and they were more angry at me than supportive. And
wow.
I was young enough to be like, this is not okay. I'm not going to stand for it. I stood up for myself. And it wasn't right. It wasn't right for him, and it wasn't right for me either. And I have beautiful children, so that's good. But then a few years later, I met someone else, and we also had children. I had 2 children with him. And we were married 10 years, but he also cheated horribly. I mean, I know at least 14 times that I found out about that.
Wow.
So that tells you how much I didn't know. But again, I wasn't necessarily healthy yet, right? So I'm still plugging away. It's so easy to do in your 20s and 30s to just be like on the groove, and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're just getting through, and you're not really slowing down long enough to think. And I was raising kids, and so I stayed 10 years because I knew what it would be like without a little bit of support to help raise those kids. But then I think, and I don't know if I'm just going to talk. So I think I remember the moment when I realized you have a decision to make. One of my foster parents had said to me one time, like, when things aren't good, you have a choice to make. You either change it, right, and you move on, or you stay with it. But then you lose the right to complain about it because you've made that choice. And so that was where I had to be. Like, what are you going to do? And a lot of things played into that. I have 4 young girls that are looking at a mom. And if this is the life that I lead with them, that is the life that they will have. So as a mom, and most moms will relate to this, we don't care if you're hurting us. But the thought of someone doing that to my child, I cannot handle.
100%.
So, yep. So I was like, can't do that. And I also remember thinking, like, there's a good chance this is how it's going to stay. So if you stay in this, you're making that decision that in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, 5 months, you're going to be crying, and this is how it's going to be. And it was horrible. It was the last time that he cheated, ended up having this female who I had thought was a friend, right? I had a friend, and these 2 girls were friends, and that's how I met the second woman. And the husband that I had cheated with the second woman via my first friend. So here's my 2 friends at her house. Yeah. So, but she would, like, my ex-husband or he was my husband at the time, but like, she would call and he would put me on the phone, and she would be telling me, I'm a better mother than you'll ever be, and we're going to take your children and we're going to go live here. And he allowed that. And I allowed him to allow that, right? I mean, it's garbage. I would never stand for that with my children. So I don't know. I think grace of God, probably some pretty good friends I had at the moment. It has to be God. I can't think of any other thing else. I got through and I got away. And I've been divorced since. I'm not remarried, and I'm fine with that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What do you wish you knew before you got married?
I definitely think the being solid about myself and knowing who I was. Also, for some reason, I don't know where I got this, but if I was in a relationship, even dating, and we broke up, I felt like it was definitely something wrong with me. It never occurred to me that we just weren't a good fit. And so it damaged me every time. It destroyed me because I took it like something's wrong with me again. There's still something wrong with me, and I think I wish I had known then that it's a process.
Yeah.
It's like trying on a shirt. This one doesn't look so great on me. I'm gonna do something else, right? It's a process. It's okay. It's okay to not be the one. It doesn't mean it's you. It doesn't even mean they're a bad person. It just means if I want good harmony, I have to find that good partner. I have to find the right combination. And that's really what you're doing. And I think I also, again, because of where I lived, it never occurred to me that you could go to college and have a career and then have children. And not that other people weren't doing that, but I wasn't a part of those groups. Those were the kids that came from good families and were college bound. I wasn't college bound. This is what I was going to do. So there's a few things that I think I would do over. And I would not marry so young. It's okay. It's okay to just be with a partner for a very long time and enjoy your life.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. So when you left your last marriage, you had 4 children.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about this because there's so many women in this situation. They've got even 1 child, doesn't matter how many, but 4, I mean, that's something to talk about there. The fear of not being able to financially support, the fear of how to do it, a lot of times bubbles up whenever they think that they're not in the correct partnership. How did you finally leave? What did you do?
So I'm going to tell you, it's not a magic wand.
Yeah.
So I tried more than once. So that's why, and when I say people should be gracious with themselves, because it might take a couple of tries, right?
I love that you're saying that, by the way.
So I would say you need to leave. And then I was good for 2 or 3 days. And then when the friends stop coming to visit and letting you cry on their shoulder and supporting you, you are left alone. And that's when you get weak. And that's when you reach out to your partner again and you convince yourself that they will change, things will be better. Because ultimately, people entered into a marriage to make it work. None of us want it to end. It's really about, you just need to get honest and true to yourself. Take yourself to a space where it is just you. It is just Jodi talking to Jodi. Jodi that was a little girl, Jodi that's growing up, and Jodi that's the mom of the 4 kids. Talk to just her and everyone else leaves, and be honest. What's really happening, and what do you think? If you were talking to a friend, what would you tell them? What do you think is really going to happen? Because that's probably going to happen. And you should be your best friend, right?
Right.
So, you know what I did? I had food stamps. I had Badger Care. I was a teacher's aide, a substitute, and I worked as many hours as I could. I worked at a bar and grill as a dishwasher. I worked wherever and whenever I could. I tried to work opposite of like I would work when my kids were in school if I could, so I didn't have to worry about that. But my oldest daughter was with my kids sometimes. I honestly don't feel like I left her with them constantly or anything. It wasn't like days and days, but we all pitched in and we did what we had to do. And I had actually in my second marriage, we had applied for a Habitat house. And we were accepted, and we had a Habitat for Humanity house. And so through them, I met some really great people that were One of them was a student support at the campus in town, our community college. And so we just talked, and eventually I thought, okay, I'm going to go to school. I can't remember exactly how it came about. Like, I think I just had not believed in myself enough yet. And so I started school. And so when their marriage was ending, I actually had already been in school for a semester or two. And I also think that helped. I think when I was in college, I was surrounded with a variety of different people and some very strong people. And so I saw that glimmer of a different life. And I'm almost 50 now, so I don't have that energy I had then. But I remember then being like, I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing. And I went for it. So it wasn't easy. I'm not the, I've said this before, I'm not the gal that gets to go on Oprah and say, here I am, and it's all great, because it hasn't been all great, and it's been a struggle, but I did it. Other people can do it. And I think that's more realistic than thinking like one big thing is going to happen and fix it all. It isn't. You have to have some good friends and a good support system and faith, whether it's God or it doesn't really matter, but just faith that you can do it and move on. And I did. So like I said, I had a lot of jobs, and I did end up meeting somebody in the small town that I was living in, and had a relationship and decided to move. So then I moved to the Madison area with him. And as I saw that one maybe not being a right fit also, I knew because I was a teacher's aide at the time, I knew I couldn't support my children on my own wage. So the hardest part for me then was I had 3 jobs at one time.
Wow.
I worked full time at the school, and then I cleaned office buildings in the evening, and then I did respite care for students with disabilities and stuff on the weekends and some weeknights whenever I could, and decided I'm going to get my teaching degree. So I went to applied and got to a master's program where I could get my master's degree and my teaching certificate at the same time.
That's awesome.
And then I could breathe a little bit. It was a lot. I was tired. I think I didn't stop and feel sorry for myself a lot, because I wouldn't have been able to keep going. But please don't think there were not tears. I did I'm quitting school. I can't do this. I can't do it. I can't do it at all. I'm not smart enough. I did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a counselor. I encourage people to do that. I think everybody in the world needs a counselor. It's somebody that's not technically your friend that will give you real advice, right? And help you just be someone to lean on. And I remember her saying to me, like, hey, Jodi, because I was like, I can't do this master's. I can't do it. And I remember her saying, so let's talk about this. Have you ever felt this way in college before? And I said, yes. And she said, and did you quit? Did you fail? And I said, no. And she said, well, what are some of the things that you did? I said, I reached out to the professors, and I worked really hard and all of these things. And she said, that's what you're going to do now. Like, you have to look at how you've handled it and remember, you didn't fail then. You're not going to now. It's going to be okay. And I still use that today. Like, what are the chances that that's going to happen? How did it work out last time? It's been a very long journey. I'm getting exhausted thinking about my life.
I can relate on a few of those aspects. You kind of already touched on this, but some of those challenges that you went through, what was the emotion internally?
So we're all real with each other right here. I still struggle. It's not being good enough. It's shame. It's low self-esteem. I've read a lot of books and watched videos and whatever. And so I'm familiar with the fact that when you don't get your needs fulfilled, right, when you're young, it's damaging. And so you will spend a large part of your life searching out for that and maybe not always finding it in the right place. And so I think for me, because my mom was abusive, she was very physically abusive and I have a brother and sister, and she was abusive to them as well. You want to be loved because the person as a child, or a baby, when you're born, right? Like your parents are they're your savior. Mm-hmm. And when the savior isn't giving you the love and protecting you and giving those things that you need, it creates some sort of, I'm not good enough. Something must be wrong with me because my own parent doesn't care enough about me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be honest. I think there's a piece of that that's still in me. I'm aware of it, so it's easier to deal with. Like I know what it is now. But there's a definitely a feeling of, my biggest emotion is sorrow. That's what I'll tell you. Sorrow for what could have been, should have been, what didn't happen for that little girl. And sorrow that even now, when so the audience maybe, but definitely my friends have said, Jodi, you went to school and had 3 jobs, raised 4 kids by yourself, and you have a master's degree. You're amazing. But I don't see that. That's not what I see. I still see someone who isn't good enough. I wasn't unconditionally loved. Mm-hmm. And I think I needed that. And so, and I'm okay. I have seen a counselor and I'm just going to throw this in here real quick. I actually didn't know who my dad was my whole life. And a few years ago, through ancestry, met sort of a cousin. She's like a sister to me now, but for a few, like a year or two, we were just kind of writing back and forth. And then one day she decided, my sister and I are going to take you under our wings and we're going to do it. And they found my father. Yeah. So then I knew my ethnicity, and her and her sisters they're my family to me now, and they're amazing. And so those things that are happening lift you up in life, because I didn't get that from my mom. But I remember with this, I'm just going to say her name is Rose. I remember sitting at her sister's house when I went to meet my family in the bedroom. We were sitting in the bedroom, and I thought the family that I was about to meet just maybe wasn't as anxious to meet me or something. There was some lack of follow through, and every time it devastated me. And I remember just sitting there and breaking down in this horrible cry and saying, I just want one person to love me that won't leave. Just one person, like we do our children, because it doesn't matter what they say to us or what's going on. We don't leave, right? And I didn't have that. And I think that's the core of that was the biggest probably struggle I've ever had. Yeah. But I'm good. And I think that it's important that I had to realize that it was there. It just maybe wasn't the husband or the mom that was giving me that.
Yeah.
And Rose ended up being, I know my children love me unconditionally, but for Rose and her sisters, they're not required to.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the person you can tell anything to, and they still love you, and they're always there. And after a life of never having that, it was very hard to trust. And I don't know how many other people in the audience feel this way, but just like, you want it so bad that you allow yourself to a certain point to start trusting it, and then you cut it off because you can't go any further. You're sure that, nope, they're going to hurt me too. Because there are a lot of not so nice people in the world that take advantage. Maybe some people don't even know that they're doing it, but don't give you the respect that you deserve and take advantage. And so it's a pattern.
Yeah.
And also, because I felt that way, I was around those people. Those were the relationships I had. And when I was done with college and I changed a lot of different things, like my mindset, I just learned so much. And then the people I was with were much healthier, right? They were easy to be around because they had goals and dreams, and I was doing the same thing. And so they also weren't women that were putting up with men cheating and not having jobs and alcoholism. Because when I was going through that, many of the people I was with had similar relationships. So I actually was questioning, like, is it just me? Like, did our moms just not tell us this? And we just zip it when they cheat. And yeah.
Yeah. As of now, where you're at now, what kind of success, what kind of joy do you see in your life right now?
So definitely my children are my biggest joy. And I'm a special needs teacher, so I've worked with a variety of students. Some of them just have had a kind of a tough home life, similar to mine, and oftentimes much worse. And then some of them just, autism or medical things going on. And that's my joy. Like it just brings me joy to see them. I still do some respite care because I choose to. I guess it's not really respite. I'm not getting paid anymore. I just visit. I visit my kids and see them. And then now finding out that I'm Hispanic, there's a small joy in learning my new culture, and it wants to be a big joy, but I'm like nervous because I don't speak Spanish and I don't know how to cook all the food, and I feel like I'm a poser, right? I feel like you're not really Mexican. Stop trying to be Mexican. But it's just amazing to me that 10 or 12 years ago, when I was going through all that garbage, I had no idea this would be my life, that I would actually know who my father was, and I would be learning all these great things, and I would meet these new people. So, you just never know. But I would say my passion is kids, like especially teenagers. Just, you got to love them. They're still honest. They're still being very, very honest to your face. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What else? What other joys?
For me, it's my friends and my family, and my students. I think that's the biggest joy for me. I've managed to find a really close-knit group of friends, and I love learning. So I'm not sure. So right now I'm a special ed teacher, and I'm not sure that's where I'll land. Like if that'll be it. I think that I maybe want to do something else after this. And so that's exciting to think about too. And like, what would you do?
What are you thinking?
I'm not sure. I'll tell you what, if someone out, the question is, if you won the lottery, you could do anything, what would you do? If I won the lottery and could do anything, I actually would open like I don't know, I hate the word shelter, but like for teens who, parents have kicked them out or done whatever, I would run something like that so that they can come, they can get food, they have a place to sleep, and tomorrow they can go to school knowing that they still have a place to sleep and some food in their belly. And I'm not blaming parents. This, again, not a blame game. Things that happen in life that, it's irrelevant. The fact is that I have a lot of kids. I've met a lot of kids that they're struggling, and they're struggling with their parents. And I'm sure their parents are struggling too, because that's their baby. And somehow they're losing that connection and they're scared. Right. But if I could be that home that they could sleep in at night and then get up and go to school, because getting that diploma, getting your education, and seeing what you can do to change your stars, it's so important. That is the biggest thing to me, is if I could get kids to understand that just because you're born into this situation, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And it's hard because when you watch TV, you see rags to riches stories all the time, right? But you look at them and you're like, well, they have this and they have that, right? And you don't have to be an actor. You don't have to be a model. You don't have to have some huge thing, right, that makes you a movie star.
Mm-hmm. You're
already born with something. So, and I've shared this. This is going to get long-winded now because, sorry.
That's good.
This is what I truly believe. I believe that every single person, when you think about the science of all the cells combining to make a human being, it's a miracle. Mm-hmm. It's a miracle. Not all cells become human beings, but you did and I did. That's not an accident. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say it's God or anything. I'm saying it's intentional. It's intentional that you ended up to be you and I was me, and we're purposeful. So everything that Jodi does is unique to Jodi, and everything that you do is unique to you and my children. You know what I mean? And so, like, you already have what you need to be amazing. You just have to figure it out, whatever it is that you're good at. And that's all you have to do is be good at the thing that you love and you're already good at, because that's the piece of the puzzle that fits to help everybody else. Yeah. So I truly do love kids, have a passion for them and love helping them. And because I've cried so much in my life and had heartache and felt desperate and suicidal at times, I've been there. I don't want to see other people go through it. And guess what the good news is? This is what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. I just have to do what I already do. So when I have students come and they're like, I don't fit in, or they're feeling like they want to take their life, they just don't fit in the world. And I try to get this concept across that you are an amazing person just because you're you. There will never be anyone else like you ever, ever, ever again. Mm-hmm. So you're purposeful, you're intentional, you're supposed to be here. You don't have to do anything more than find out what makes you happy and what you're good at. And that's exactly who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be. And you will, like, when we look at the world as a puzzle, that's your piece. You fit right there. You're supposed to, because you're going to give all the other people around you those things. And if you're not here, we're in trouble, because nobody likes to look at a puzzle put together with a piece missing. Right? It drives us crazy. We're like, oh my gosh, where's that piece? We just throw it away because we can't handle it. You got to have the piece, but we need it. It has to be there. You have to be there. You're supposed to be here. I need you to be here. And you can do it. Like, hell, if I could do it, I feel like they definitely can do it. But I think a lot of people just don't believe in themselves yet enough. And honestly, I don't every day. I don't believe in myself a lot every single day. But I get back to those things that help me to feel that way when I'm working with other people and spending time and meeting authentic personalities. And honestly, just being here today, like probably 4 or 5 months ago, my oldest daughter had said, Mom, because they're all growing up and leaving the house, you need a hobby. And they have all these groups on Facebook, and you can, anything you're interested in, you could join. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up on the Single Soaring Moms, just randomly. And I don't always interact. I read what people write, and sometimes, and I meet you. Intentional, right? It's supposed to be. And I would have, it's just crazy to me. That's how life works. And I also know that there's those deep, dark moments where how I'm feeling right now seems like other people feel that I'm not going to be there. And you can email me and I will talk to you, because you can be there. Yeah. But it'll take a little bit of work for sure.
Yeah. 100%. I love that analogy you used of the puzzle with the puzzle piece. That's so true.
It really is true. I mean,
I love that.
I stand by it. Like, every human being in this world is supposed to be here. It is purposeful. You are intentional and you are necessary. You're necessary. I will never meet, it's hard to explain. The relationships that I have now are unique.
Yeah.
They won't happen again. There won't be this combination of you and I sitting here ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. It's once in a lifetime. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everything is, it's like, it's very important. And that's how I feel about when I work with my special needs kids too. I'm like, a lot of them are nonverbal, and you think of all the people in the world that get to be a part of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be one of those people. I got to be someone that met you today and talked to people. I got to do that.
Yeah.
So it matters. It's all important.
100%. What things have you learned to value, now that you're older?
I think myself, maybe, like learning to trust and believe in myself. And I'm going to share that's what I'm doing now. So if there's moms, they'll relate to this. When you're in your 20s and your 30s with your children, you're really just raising your children. You're busy. That is your whole mindset, everything. And in a good way, that's what we wanted. That's what we signed up for. We're excited to do it. But now, closer to 50, my kids are older. And so I'm slowing down and I'm remembering again who I was and what I was, and being gracious. Be so gracious to yourself. Start being kind. I never was. I was harder on myself than anyone. You're ugly. You're disgusting. You're dumb. That's why people don't be with you. Anything negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize, one, get rid of the people that ever make you feel that way or say that, because you don't need that. You have yourself to cut yourself down if you need to, and you're probably your worst critic.
Yeah.
But the graciousness is saying, yep, I did that and it's okay. Because I think every time I did something that wasn't what other people did, I necessarily assumed it was wrong. Mm-hmm. And then that was another reason I wasn't good enough, because I did it this way, or I thought about it that way. And I'm learning still, like, yep, that's the way you reacted, or that's how you said it, and that's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you're not held accountable for if you've hurt other people's feelings or anything. It just means, like, you're kinder to yourself, and you're saying, here's an example. I get high anxiety when I drive in the car. And so
as a passenger, or just in general?
It's right now it's in general. I think COVID made it a little bit worse. It used to be just as a passenger. So you can imagine when I'm riding with people in the car, I'm always like, oh, I'm sorry, because I'm doing this. And I don't need to apologize. I'm not doing this to hurt anybody, right? I can't help that this is who I am. I get nervous. As a mom, I think my biggest fear is losing myself or my children, right, in a car accident or something. And so that's why I get uptight. Like, I trust my driving. I don't trust the people around me. And I don't want them taking me out. So, but just realizing that those little things about you, because always it was like, I'm the girl that, can't go on these long trips and can't do these things. And I'm not as good as everybody else because they all run around and have fun. Stop doing that. Just stop. Because I wouldn't say that to another person. If they told me that they got nervous in a car, I'd talk with them through it. But when it came to myself, right, that's what I'm learning. Those are the things that are helping me now, is to, like, treat yourself as good as you would treat your best friend or some. Half the time we treat strangers better than we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So I forgot what the original question was. I'm
sorry. What things have you learned, or what things have you learned to value? That's what it was. Now that you're
yep. So my friendships and my family, I think, I was never materialistic. And I'll say that, yes, I like nice things and I worked hard and I love shopping, but I never thought that that was the most important thing. I think I've always known that family was really important, definitely my children. But you start to realize that, okay, so COVID is an example. When everything else is lost, right? When you're not doing all that shopping and doing those trips, what is the most important thing? And it's those relationships that you have with your family and friends, because that's, when I leave the earth, that's it. Like, that's the impact I made or didn't make. Mm-hmm. for me, I'm doing a little bit of empty nester right now. So there's that. It's different. And realizing that I'm getting older and one day won't be here. And so I just want to spend as much time with my kids, make my memories. I want them to know when I'm not here that they were loved. That's important to me. And I got stuff to do. Like I'm up in arms about a lot of the racism and sexism and all of these things. And so I just those are some things I want to do. I want to be more active with that and working with that and share it with my children. And if I have grandchildren someday, because I think we've forgotten that we are all just human beings on this planet at the same time. We're not necessarily kind to each other.
Yep.
And I'm not miraculous. I'm not a hero. I'm exactly the way everybody else is supposed to be. I think we've just forgotten. Right? Like, so if you need help, it's my job to help you. And it's your job to help me, not take advantage, but help. Like, we're all here in the same time trying to manage this place called Earth.
Yep.
So
manage is a good word. We are trying to manage it. Yeah.
You know what? I got to be honest. I think I watched too much TV growing up. So I didn't have like an idea really of life because I had a single mom and she was very abusive. So it wasn't like, I knew that wasn't normal. But when I looked to normal, it was like family ties and silver spoons. And you can get a really skewed idea of what life should be like. Young women, especially with expectations of partners.
Yep.
You're watching the man that comes in and he's attentive to every need. He actually thinks about it before you do. And he's so selfless. I'm not saying men aren't that way. I'm saying it doesn't necessarily look the same as it does on TV when they are that way.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, getting I love being with authentic people who are not sugarcoating it. They're not doing what you see on TV. It's just not reality. And I think I really was clouded by that for so much of my life. Like, as a mom, this is what it should look like. These are the things that I should be doing. I didn't get up. I'm sorry, but I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. to make like this whole beautiful breakfast and on TV. But when they're having their breakfast, it looks like they've been up for hours. They're just having these conversations, like everything. That is not how it's happening. I'm barely awake. I'm like, I don't know what you need, but your backpack's over there. There. Right?
Yeah.
That is what we need. Yeah. They're realistic. And maybe people will stop being so hard on themselves about what they aren't.
Yeah.
Because we're not. Yeah. We're not the orange juice commercial. I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times people don't realize too that the things that you see in movies, just like what you said with the breakfasts, somebody has to make that breakfast. So like, who's the like what you said, who's the person that's getting up to create that atmosphere for you?
Yes.
It's funny that you're saying this because I just had an epiphany probably, I don't even know. It was a year or two ago, but my fiance and I, so you know how in movies, romantic movies, there's always many times there's that part where the man grabs the woman and just starts like dancing around the kitchen. And we're kind of like, oh, that's so sweet. That's so romantic. Well, my fiance actually in real life does that for real. But what's so interesting about it was I am so much of a go type of person that when him and I first met, I was like annoyed by him. Like, I'd be cooking dinner, trying to make sure the onions don't burn. And he would grab me and swing me around and dip me and kiss me. Like for real, that would happen. But instead of being in the moment of awe, I'm in the moment of, dude, come on. Like, I'm trying to freaking get all this stuff done. I'm starving. So at the same time, many times, and it took me probably a good year to actually realize, like, oh my gosh, exactly what I was always wanting is actually happening. And I'm not even embracing it the way that it would normally be embraced in a movie. So you also have to like be open to it. Like you were open to speaking to me, be open to the things that are happening in your life that are good, but then also like embracing it in the way that it is happening, that you see it in the movies, because a lot of times things like that are happening. Like your daughters are probably super sweet to you at times, or all the time, or at times, and it probably does mimic things that are happening. But if you're not in the right mindset to receive it that way, then good, amazing, beautiful, bubbling things are happening in your life consistently. But if we're not receiving it correctly, then it's almost as if it didn't happen.
Right.
So it's always like when I approached you, because I, was reading some of your story or however that happened on that Facebook page, if you weren't open to receiving an opportunity or a conversation, with me to do this, because you're in the mindset of nothing ever happens for me and I'm, woe is me, victimhood, you could have very easily bypassed this conversation and not even been, open to it. And then when somebody else is talking a few months later, been like, oh, nothing good ever happens to me. I'll never tell my story. I'll never. So, the place where you're at now and the place that I'm at now and receiving things and being open to joy is a good place to be.
Yeah. And it takes work.
Yeah, it does.
And it takes work to stay there. And I want people to know that I know that sometimes you're in that place of joy and you can take a step back for a little bit and not be again. I think I wish I knew all of these things before, right? I wish I had known that it didn't look a specific way. That my journey was unique to me and it was okay. And I feel like just spending time with you. I remember writing to you and saying, I'm not really sure if I'm your girl. Because I'm not that. I did this and now my life is great.
Yeah.
I did a lot of little things. I have a pretty great life right now. And when you're talking about not realizing the moments, like I wanted that unconditional love. And you know what? When I met Rose and her sisters, you don't even know. Like they look like me. When I look at them, they look like me. They're the only ones. My siblings, nobody looks like me, but this family looks like me. They can tell me about my culture and they love me. Like they will love me. That I'm just going to say, God, that was sent to me. It was intentional. It was because that's the way it had to be. It didn't need to come from a man, and it didn't have to come in the form of a man. And it's probably better that it didn't, because I would have continued to then rely and think that a man was the only way I was going to fulfill that need, and not bashing men, because there's some wonderful men in the world. But no man or woman should assume that the opposite sex is what's going to fulfill that, right? And so when the unconditional love came from my new family, I'm blessed. I have to realize that I'm blessed. At the moment, at first, it was like, I kind of thought, because I have brothers and sisters and stuff, and at first I thought it was just not going to be that they weren't real excited to meet me or anything. And I wouldn't say that we're all really close. We kind of talk, but I'm not as close to them as I am with Rose. But I have Rose. I mean, think about how else it could have went. It could have went the complete opposite way, where they found out that their dad had another kid and didn't want to know me and all of these things, and they would have just shut me out. But that's not what I got. I met people that love me and are there for me. And so it's perspective too, right?
And you being open to that, because you're the one that did that, right?
Yeah.
You went onto Ancestry.com and you opened up that opportunity for yourself. Right? Or no?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I did. It's just talking about all this stuff just makes me, I don't know if I said this, and I'm going to share it because I do want people to know that, so there was sexual abuse when I was a child, and there was rape when I was a young adult. And there was physical abuse and emotional abuse. So I'm not saying I'm the cover for an abused child, but I'm saying that I've been there for a lot of it, so I get it. And I can't fix anyone else's story, but I can be there. And, and that's what I offer my students too, is like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here. And I can't fix everything, but I can be someone that you can talk to. And I feel like if people want to email me, maybe I haven't went through your same circumstance, but like, I've been that low. I felt that bad. And I'm here, and it's going to be okay. We'll make sure it's okay.
Yes. Yes. 100%. What would you like to tell other women out there that are struggling with self-worth? My piece of advice would be to get a great counselor. And if that means you go through a few of them, that's okay. But you need to learn how to love yourself and really appreciate the amazing being that you are. Mm-hmm. That's the first step. And I'm not telling you I'm 100% there, because I'm not 100% there. Mm-hmm. But you have to. Like, that's what's going to keep you going and keep you away from, I think, relationships that can be damaging. And a lot of times the people in your life, I don't even know if they realize how damaging they are. It's crazy how much, once you're out of it, you see, when you look back in, you see how much garbage it was. But I think first, very first thing is, if you think you can't do it, you're wrong. You can do this. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that you have to leave tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Okay? It doesn't mean that. You can plan. Yeah. You can talk to people little by little and make a decision of how this might work for you. If you have to save money, or if you have to do it, if it's physical violence, that concerns me, because I would hate for people to wait too long to get out. But just be patient. There's just no rules. You're going to do it how you're going to do it, and you're going to be successful. And just the fact that you did it is so brave. The very mm-hmm. first step, just making that decision, it's so brave. But be kind to yourself and make a plan. I'm a list girl, so I have to write down like Same. Pros and cons and like what I need to do, because maybe I won't stay on. And when you're going through emotional roller coaster because there's garbage in your life, it's hard to remember all those things. Yeah. Right. So, and I had to swallow my pride a little bit when there was food stamps and there was Badger Care and there was times when I had to, borrow money for gas for my car to get to work so that I could pay the bills. And I cried. I want you to know, I can't even count how many tears, the crying, the fear as a mom, like, what am I going to do? Thank God we had food stamps, because I didn't have to worry if my kids were going to go hungry. But like everybody else at school, was going to that birthday party with a gift. And how was I going to pull that off for my kid? Yeah. All of those things. I don't know, but you will get through it. You will get through it, and accept the kindness of strangers. Sometimes it's okay. It's okay. And you will pay it forward someday. Yeah. So I think for me, it's definitely make a plan, get out, trust that you can do this. I don't know if you felt this, but when it was really bad and you allowed yourself to dream about leaving, what it could look like, you kind of sometimes pulled yourself back, but every so often you'd be like, I wonder what it was like if I was just happy. And that can and will happen. It can. It's not a dream. It's reality. And that's your soul saying that's where you're supposed to be. Yeah. And you're not in compliance with who you really are right now. We're at odds. What you're doing and who you are and your soul and what you're supposed to be is at odds. I'm fighting this. And that little thing that you see, that's what you're supposed to have. Yeah. It's not just a dream. 100%. 100%. And knowing that and then believing it, And men too. Like, I don't want it to just, I know it's about women, but like, there are men that have felt exactly like we feel. Yeah. They're just anybody in the world. Like, you deserve great. You deserve great. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So when you and I first started talking, you had, explained your past and, what you dealt with as a young person, a young adult. And as you've grown and as you've created your own family, the traits that you grew up with, you decided not to pull forward into your future family. How did you do that? Do you think that is a trait or something that individuals can do?
Yeah, I do, because I didn't have a professional that was teaching me how to do it, right? I did it on my own. So it's in us to know. And you're going to listen to podcasts, you're going to read a book, you're going to do whatever. That's what's going to help you. For me, my oldest daughter was 2. My mom was extremely physically abusive to my siblings and I. My sister was 8 years older, so she married as soon as she could, I think, and got kind of away from that. And my brother got put into a separate foster care. So that's how we knew who was getting it the worst, right? When my brother was home, it was him. But if all the kids were taken out of the home and it was just me, then it was going to be me. And when my daughter was 2, I had went out the night before. And so the next morning, I'm still kind of tired and probably hungover. And it's like 12 o'clock and it's her nap time. She's, little, and I want her to take this nap because mommy needs a nap. Mm-hmm. And I found myself being so angry that she wouldn't stay laying down that I was spanking her hard because I was mad. So I wasn't spanking her with like, I want to teach you to stay away from a car. It was, I'm angry and I'm taking it out on you. And I can remember it clear as day, just stopping. Like, what am I doing? And I don't know what gave me the thought, but for me, I pictured a stop sign. Every time I would get to that point, I would just do a stop sign. And I would not allow myself to spank her. And I know people have different ideas about spanking. I'm not saying it's a horrible thing. I'm saying that if you think about the fact that you're physically harming someone, right, to show them to not do something, that just seems kind of messed up. Like, I will hurt you if you don't do what I want you to do. That's fear. That's not showing respect or consequence or anything. And so I had to do it. I know it took me at least a year of having to picture those stop signs before it became more of a natural thing, so that I wasn't hitting her in the same ways that my mom was doing to me and my siblings. And I'll also share that I've really tried to lead with love with my girls, and because it's so I felt so damaged by what I didn't get from my mom. I felt like I wasn't loved. I feel like she never loved me. And I'm not saying that's true. She may have in her own way. I'm saying based on what I got from her, that's how I ended up feeling. And so I didn't want that for my kids, but I've realized, that I lacked a lot of the skills that I needed. Mm-hmm. And so then my kids didn't necessarily always get what they needed. They got love. They have a lot of hugs and all of those things, but just the healthy relationship. They deserved a mom and dad that was solid, right? But because I wasn't choosing that, then they also didn't get it. And they also ended up with fathers that didn't want anything to do with them later on, really kind of abandoned them.
Yeah.
They suffered from that because of a choice that I made. And I'm not saying you should beat myself up forever. I'm saying what I lacked and was unable to pass on to them, now as I learn it, I have to share with them so they can reach out to a counselor, somebody else that can help them fill that, so that cycle stops in their life. So that, and when I've said this, when we moved away from our family, we started our own family tree. We want a healthy family tree. There's no more abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. There's none of that. We're done with that. Mm-hmm. And so it's our job for the next generations, right, to make it as healthy as we can, and to understand that there's so many things I didn't even know I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have it, so it never even occurred to you that you would need it. Counselors are so important, or other people you feel have it together, maybe, I don't know, have those skills, and be accepting wherever it comes from, a book, a podcast, a video, I don't care. But like, there's things that even as much as, and I truly love my kids, like they are the most important thing to me. I couldn't, that's the only important thing to me, really. Just I love them so much, and I want them to know how much I love them. And so I'm really trying hard not to mess things up, and learning that sometimes you unintentionally do, and learning to be open to it not being that I'm a bad person, it just being things I don't know yet. And then sharing that with my own girls. And you know what, I'm blessed. I have children that when I say I'm sorry, I didn't know, they're like, it's okay, Mom, you didn't have the skills. You know, because they should be like, you brought me here. You should have known what you were doing when you brought me. But they don't. And I hope everyone gets that lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, a lot of us as parents are trying to do it better than our parents did. I love how vulnerable and open you are about, you know, where you sit emotionally now, where you were sitting emotionally then. I think that that's such a wonderful trait to have, because so many people don't like that side of them being seen. They like to look as if they know all of the things all of the time. What are
been that person?
Okay, there you go.
I've been her.
There you go. What are your thoughts on right now? What are your thoughts on?
When you said that, my first thought was, that's what was preventing me from growing and getting healthy.
Yeah.
Because it's taking me to say, I don't give it anymore. Go ahead and judge me.
Yeah.
But this is how I'm healing. This is how I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like for me. And if you want to judge it, you go ahead and do that. But I'm tired of being stuck in the same place. I'm not doing it. So if the whole world wants to laugh at me, that's okay. As long as I know that I'm getting better and I'm feeling better. 100%. That was a barrier. 100%. Just exactly what you said. Just the whole, it's exhausting. It's exhausting feeling like you're supposed to have it all together and wanting to convince everyone you have it together, because somehow if you don't, you're not worthy. I don't know where we got that idea.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
100%. So with that, what are your thoughts on emotions, and what are your thoughts on sitting in your sadness and being okay with that and allowing yourself to feel?
I think it's part of the process. I think you need to learn to lean into the pain a little bit and allow it, because that's part of the process. I don't think it's necessarily healthy to do that for extended periods of time. I'm more of a, well, that sucked, now what? Right. Mm-hmm. And that could be like for 2 days I'm crying. I've had times where I'm in bed all day and I just feel miserable. But then they have to figure out, what are the next steps? Like, well, this didn't work. And what do I want it to look like? And what do I have to do to make it look like that? Like, what steps would I need to take for it to look the way I would like it to be? You have to move on. Like, you do need to let the sadness, because that's healing. That's your soul, like getting rid of all the pain that you have. You have to let it out. And then you can move forward and you can think more clearly. And honestly, I take anti-anxiety drugs. Like, it's a anti-anxiety depressive, right? And I struggled with that. Oh my God, I better not tell anybody. Better not tell anybody. I'm crazy. I'm just like, no. Guess what? Probably 90% of the population is on something, and the rest of them are smoking weed. And so it is, right? So, and if you're one of the lucky ones that doesn't need it, that's fantastic. Like, really happy for you. Yeah. But the rest of us need it. We live in a really fast-paced world, and our brains and our bodies aren't moving quite as fast as the rest of the world. Yeah. And the expectations and all the media, what they put on people to be, and men even, like, you better be this strong, sturdy, don't you cry, because you're a wimp if you cry.
Yeah.
And somehow you should financially be so stable that you could provide for your wife and your children anything that they want. I mean, it's just, yeah. Sorry, I'm ranting again. But yes, I think it's good to like feel that sadness and feel it and allow yourself to feel the anger and remind yourself that no matter how you're feeling, it's not wrong. That's how you actually feel in the moment. And maybe after some processing and dealing with things, you'll feel differently. But, you know, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. It's okay.
100%. I agree with you. This was so full of so much emotion. I appreciate you being here so much.
Thank you. Thanks for I think this was as good for me as it was for anyone else. I said this is part of me stepping out of my comfort zone. At the end of the day, I truly love people, you know, and want to help. And so I think the old Jodi, younger, more brave Jodi would have done this. So this is that.
How do you feel?
I feel happy. I do. I just feel it was that part of like I said, I wasn't growing if I wasn't doing things right. And so we've done this. We've spent some time together. I think I'm with a like-minded person, a kind person, and I've made a relationship that I didn't have. So I've benefited from that. And I haven't necessarily told my children all of my story of my life, and it's something that I'm working up to, but this is a step to that. Is someday being able to write it down so that they do know what it really was like. And mostly because I don't want them to ever go there or allow anyone to be there with them.
Yeah.
And this is part of that step. And I appreciate you letting me have the platform for my journey so that just because you're letting me heal. You're letting me move forward and grow.
Thank you.
So
Awesome.
really, I think you just did me the favor. So thank you.
You're so sweet. You're gonna make me cry. So you said a couple times while we were talking that people can email me or email you. Do you mind giving us your email so I can put it on the banner here?
Yep, it's my name, Jodi L. Anderson 4@gmail. It's four daughters.
Okay. Yes. And then what's your middle name? Lynn?
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. So if anybody has any need of getting some talk out, some emotions out, Jodi's been through a lot and she can relate to a lot. And she's a very amazing motherly figure. She's being a beautiful motherly figure. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit with us. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think make today the day. Make today the day, whoever's there, whatever it is. I don't care. I'm not saying walk out today. I'm saying whatever is lacking and you've been hoping for, this is your sign. We're your sign. You should do it. You need to talk to somebody. You need to make a list. I don't know what it is, but today is the day that you start making that glimmer a reality.
Yeah. I agree. I second that. I second that. Well, I am going to close out with teary eyes here and try to read. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. Have an amazing day. Much love.